Hello. So this morning we are at Parafield near Adelaide in Australia, and we're going to be taking a look at the Cessna Stationair or Turbo Stationair 8 Mark II in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So as far as I understand, this has been built by Carenado and it's available in the marketplace for Flight Simulator right now. So I've just gone and bought a copy of it and we're going to have a look at it. So we're going to have a look around the outside. So in common with all of the Carenado aircraft, it's fantastically modelled, so you can just see as we wander around it looks photorealistic. It's very, very good. So all the panels, the rivets, everything are really, really nicely modelled. So make our way around the aircraft. It's a typical Cessna. Some very, very similar. Many of the Cessna family are similar to each other. They've even got all the small panels look modelled in now underneath, which is really cool. There's the pitot tube there. All the panels around the engine as well. The radiators, blades, the nose boss. Looks very, very good, doesn't it? So just everyone seems to always be interested in seeing the detail that they've put into the undercarriage, and it's very, very good. Obviously this is fixed gear on this aircraft. So let's go and have a look inside. So we've got the pilots. I'm not sure if they're going to disappear based on the camera. Probably not. Oh no, they have. Yep, so once we get within the cockpit they disappear, which is normal. Okay, so this is the drone camera, by the way. I'm controlling it with an Xbox controller. So you can see, in common with all of the Carenado aircraft, the modelling is very, very good. Yeah, so the interior is done really, really nicely. Even down to the carpet texturing, it's very good. It's got a bit of wear and tear. I know sometimes some of the aeroplanes get criticised for having too much wear and tear, but I think this is a pretty good balance. It certainly looks lived in. Okay, so let's get the drone camera out of the way, and we won't hang around much longer. We're actually going to take it for a fly across Adelaide, have a little look around the city and find out how the airplane goes along the way. So I'm just going to move the Xbox controller out of the way, press the insert key, and we're inside the airplane. We'll get that door closed. Okay, so I've not actually flown this at all, so this is new for me too. So we're going to put propeller on max, we're going to put mixture on rich, and we're going to go and turn the master battery switch on. And we do have independent battery and alternator, which isn't always true in the simulator of the various aircraft. So we'll put the alternator on already. We'll go and turn on the nav lights and the beacon lights while we're on battery. Let's go and have a quick look outside to see them. How are they lit up? Oh, I think the Xbox controller's drifting. Yes, it is. So just looking to see how the lights have been modelled, and we've got the beacon light flashing away. Do we get a light underneath as well? I'm not too familiar with this model of Cessna. It doesn't look like it. Okay, so jump back inside. So before we completely flatten the battery, let's go and turn the engine over. So we've got the beacon light on already, mixture's on rich. Crank the throttle open a little bit. And then magnetos to both. And then start. Okay, Carenado don't tend to model things super accurately, so you can get away with a lot, so it's very nice for newcomers. You're not going to get penalised too heavily for mistreating the engine. It's quite simplified in many respects. Having said that, you can see, so if we take it up to 1500 RPM, just to warm up and watch these needles. So is the head temperature going to start moving a little bit? So while we're firing the rest of the aircraft up, we'll leave that running about 1400 RPM. It's a bit higher than you normally would, but I just want to see if the needle starts moving over there. Okay, so we want to go and turn on the avionics master switch. Calibrate the altimeter while we're here. We'll see if the compass needs calibration. It was already aligned, if indeed it does drift. I'm not really sure yet. So just waiting for the GPS to come up. So we've got autopilot here, we've got ADF, we've got transponder down here, so we're going to put it on standby at the moment. Okay, we have GPS. So let's go and have a quick look at the map and see where we are and where we're going. So we're at Parafield. I thought we might fly down the coast to Aldinga Airport. So we're at YPPF going to YADG. So we're just waiting for this to capture satellites and then we can program our basic route in. And then we'll be good to go. Put the yoke back on while we're sitting here. Has that started moving? It hasn't, has it? Oh, maybe just a little bit. It's just edged above the white line now. So we've got exhaust gas temperature over there as well. We've got cowl flaps, which should work. So if we try closing them, see what happens. So yeah, they've closed. And then reopen them, and they've reopened. Very good. And we're acquiring satellites, apparently. It's taking its time about it. Give it a few moments. It's really nicely modelled, isn't it? So what do we get that's clickable while we're waiting? So we get the sunshades that work. What about windows? Yep, the windows work nicely. And they alter the sound, which is a nice touch. Obviously the doors can be opened, we already saw that a moment ago. It's the same both sides. And the cabin's really nicely modelled. Okay, so we have a GPS running. So I'm going to take the head tracking off just to program this briefly. So we're looking on the GPS flight plan. We're going to go from YPPF. So we click on the little keyboard, type in YPPF, and if you go too fast it can't keep up with you. Press enter, and we're going to YADG, so it's just a point-to-point simple route for today's purposes, just so we can try out some autopilot. That's the wrong one. YADG. If I YADG. There we go. If I was accurate, I'd be dangerous. So there we go, we've got the magenta line showing up, and we can put this on the first page, which will show us an aircraft-oriented view of the world, which is quite nice. Okay. Should we taxi aim? So, we want taxi lights on. We'll put the, actually we want the pitot heat when we're a bit closer to the runway. I think we've got a little bit of a taxi ahead of us. Let's have a look at the wind just to see what's going on with the airport. So, wind is from the southeast, 8 knots. So we're probably looking at using either putting up with the crosswind on 21, or we could taxi down and go for 08 left maybe. So I think we'll do that. We'll taxi down, use 08 left. It gives us a bit of a taxi so we can see how it handles on the ground while we're at it. Okay, so off the parking brake. Let's go and put the head tracking back on, centre our view up. So can we hold it at tick over, and will it stall the engine at tick over? Doesn't seem to. So we're going to follow the taxiway all the way down. It's got quite a low beam there to see out sideways, so if you haven't got head tracking, that's probably going to be a bit of a struggle to spot the runway from the side of the aircraft. steering is very, very precise on the ground. It's very stable. Doesn't move around much. Okay, just making our way down to the end of the runway. Or at least to one of the cross sections. So we will go first stage of flaps. We shouldn't need flaps for takeoff, but this aeroplane is quite a lot bigger than some of the smaller Cessnas. Okay. I said the visibility is not great. Okay, so full throttle. Oh no, hang on a second. Before we get going, let's do this properly for a change. So we want the landing lights on, strobe lights on, transponder to on, pitot heat on. Check the volume levels. I don't know if it's just my headphones are quiet. So, oh, it seems quite loud for you. Okay. So I'm going to turn it down a bit for you. I'm trying to multitask here. So pulling back. Let's put the yoke back on. Okay, so looks pretty good. On those instruments, back into the green. I'm just looking to see what's happening with the manifold pressure there, so we'll have that on limit. We'll pull the RPM back down. Where's the white, the target range? I think that's the limit range, isn't it? So just looking down here. So if we can push on, if at max RPM, yeah, it goes into the yellow, it won't go into the red. Let's look where we're going. Okay, we'll hold it in that lower range, just towards the limit of it. And raise the flaps now. Just on the coming up to 100 knots there before we raise the flaps. So we'll wonder how fast it will go in cruise. So we're still climbing at sort of 700-800 feet a minute as we turn back towards Parafield, but we'll see. It's very stable, even though it's not very stable outside today. The aeroplane's actually easy to fly. So I'm just trimming it. Okay, so it's flying now nice and straight of its own accord. Always good. So we can see Adelaide out there in the distance. We can see on the map here. Interesting, why is the GPS range not working? Is that the closest range we can get? That's interesting. I thought it would go closer than that. Okay, so let's try out the autopilot. So we can we pre-select? No, we can't pre-select modes with it off, but that's not a problem. If we turn autopilot on, it will go to pitch and roll. There we go. So then we should be able to press Alt to get altitude hold. So you'll watch the vertical speed there, zeroing out, that's good. We'll spin the heading bug around to go the direction we're actually going. Okay. So then if we go for heading bug or heading mode, it will track the heading. So let's try rotating the heading, see if it tracks. Yeah, it's doing that perfectly. Come back to south. It's quite slow to respond. So we seem to be able to cruise along at about 135 knots or so at low altitude. So we're only at 2,000 feet. You can see we're making progress towards our target. So we're 27 miles out, about 12 minutes or so. So it gives us time to have a little look at it in the air, doesn't it? So now we're up and running. We can go and turn the landing lights off, turn the taxi lights off. It's like a stretch Cessna, basically, isn't it? The Tobii Stationair. I'd never heard of it before until it arrived in Flight Simulator earlier today. It certainly looks the part, though. So you can see there's parafield disappearing behind us. Okay, so in terms of the avionics suite, you obviously get indicated airspeed, attitude indicator, you get a compass, or not a compass, a gyro compass. You've got the proper compass up there. I've forgotten the correct name for these. it's somewhere in my head. We've got the turn coordinator, a clock. You don't always see clocks in the aeroplanes. So down here you've got the suction gauge for the instruments, which is good. You've got the fuel flow meter there. We've got ADF, vertical speed indicator, altitude, and you've got the old-fashioned nav instrument, which I actually prefer these to the modern rotating HSIs. I think it's just because I spent more time looking at them over the years. In terms of engine gauges, you've got fuel, amperes, fuel, so that's left and right wing tanks. Cylinder head, temperature, oil pressure, oil temperature, and then you've got manifold pressure, fuel flow, RPM. And over here, if I can get to it, the exhaust gas temperature. Cool. As we mentioned earlier, you've got the normal audio stack, and then the GTN 750. So 530, not 750. And because this is a Carenado aeroplane, I'm guessing, or because it's the flight simulator version of the Carenado aircraft, you don't get the tablet, which is a shame. Otherwise, I imagine you'd be able to swap out the radios. So I'm sure there's some good reasoning for that, but it's still a shame that it doesn't have the tablet. Have they got anything hidden in here? Any hidden click spots? Doesn't look like it. I haven't dug around the aeroplane looking for click spots yet to see if there is anything hidden, but the Asobo planes don't tend to have many things hidden. Okay, how are we doing? 9 minutes to go, 21 miles to run. So if we were to look straight over the back wing there, you can see there's the centre of town. Central Adelaide. And we're heading off down. If you can have a look on the LittleNavMap to show you where we are. We've just come past the centre and we're heading off down the coast. So it'd make a bit more fun if we went into the hills, wouldn't it? So should we come off autopilot? Actually, are there any VORs around? Let's fly a radial away from this VOR station. So say if we wanted to fly this direction out over Aberfoyle Park, for example. So we want 11640 on the radio. And we want this set on about 140 degrees. So we'll spin this round. And then we'll go for heading bug and so it's saying we're off to the right of the beam, which we are. Should see that beam come in, and then we can correct it up to 140 as we get there. Almost 640, I have got that right, haven't I? Because that's not reflecting that. It's doing from, but it's weaving around a fair amount, isn't it? Oh, we're in GPS mode, that's why. I'm being silly. That makes a lot more sense now, look. Absolutely on the radial. First mistake of the flight, hooray! No doubt comments have already been written while I was doing that, saying, you're doing that wrong. You might have to go and delete your comment now if you have written one. I realised exactly what I'd done. Okay, so all we're doing is flying out over the hills just to have a little play with the aeroplane, really, see how it behaves. I think it's nice that things move around on the aeroplanes. It really shows some attention to detail. It makes the immersion that much better. Okay, should we take this up to altitude? So we're at 2,000 feet at the moment. Let's go up to 5,000 feet while we're on the way. And when we go over the top of our destination, we'll do some stall tests. So up to 5,000, and we'll arm that. Is it done? This is always a bit sketchy. There we go, it's worked this time. So 1,000 feet a minute. Let's see if it can hold a sustained climb at 1,000 feet a minute. If we turn in over these hills now, so we want to be flying, we've got a 20 knot crosswind mind, so we want about, so that's 200 degrees. If we went for 190, let's see how that turns out. So heading mode to 190, we're in heading mode anyway. We're climbing at 1,000 feet a minute. How's it doing on the airspeed? Is it going to hold 1,000 feet a minute? It's doing it in the turn, look, just about above the flap limit speed. Because the autopilot reacts so slowly, look, it is fishtailing around trying to achieve what we've asked of it. It's always interesting when that sort of thing goes on. So just coming up to 3,500 feet. It's holding that 1,000 feet a minute. I'm surprised it's able to climb that quickly. Let's drop it down a bit. 800 feet a minute. So you can see indicated airspeed, did that quite nicely. How are we doing on the trip? So let's have a look outside while we're busy climbing. The scenery in this part of the world is always really interesting, isn't it? And we've got some weather to deal with as well now. See the aeroplane moving around in the air. It's very cool. So we have not raised the cowl flaps. I'm not sure it's going to have much effect on performance, but we can certainly have a look, see if it does anything to it at all. I don't think it tends to in the Carenado aircraft. I don't think they tend to be modelled that well. So it's just a cosmetic change, but it's nice that it's there at least. So yeah, we can't see any of the temperature needles or anything moving around much. So as we are climbing, we're going to start playing with the mixture. So I'm just watching that RPM needle as we do this. It's not having much effect, is it? That is. So it's almost like a switch in the Carenado aircraft between being leaned out too much and just, you know, well, you seem to be able to reduce the fuel flow without really affecting RPM at all. Okay, it's getting cloudy. As long as we've got some sight of the ground, we can do our spin tests and we'll look at the altitude. It might be a bit clearer when we get to where we're going. So it's a flat plane over here as well, which means we don't have any hills to worry about. This would be interesting though, to do a spin test with little or no visibility. So we are at 5,000 feet and we're in the cloud. So this is not looking great actually. And we've lost sight of the ground now as well. Now we can still just about see the ground down there. And oh, are we going to be lucky and hit a gap in the clouds? Maybe we should head out that direction for the spin tests. I think that might be an idea, you know. Just looking for a gap. Okay, let's come off the autopilot. Okay, this will do. So to begin with, we'll just reduce throttle, hold the airplane level. So watching vertical speed. Pulling in further and further back. That's full back stick. So it's just mushing. Okay, what about if we turn through 180 degrees and do the same again. I'm climbing as we go. So back out over this clear patch of sky. We're going to be chasing this clear patch, aren't we, to do the tests. So, flying into the wind. Or was it with the wind now? Let's have a quick check. No, flying with the wind. That was into the wind, that it didn't want to stall. It just mushed. So that's full back stick, and it's just sitting at about 60 knots and mushing down. Okay. So, steep, nose up, with power, and the left wing's tucked under, and I'm holding the elevator in, and it's spinning, and it's come straight back out as soon as I let go of force on the yoke. So let's come up to 5,000 feet again. We'll transfer our speed into altitude. This is a ridiculously dangerous way to do spinning when you can't see the ground clearly. But we'll see how it goes. So we're going to turn right this time. Full power, steep climb, turning right. And it's tucked the right wing under. But it doesn't want to spin. As soon as I stop the turn, is it going to do it again? So without power it won't spin. I don't think it won't tuck the wing under. Or will it? If we force it with the rudder, can we make it spin the other way with the rudder? Let's try this. Okay, yeah, as soon as you release the controls, it comes out with a spin immediately. You just have to be careful of the airspeed. Look, the airspeed increased very quickly. Okay, so let's turn around and go back towards the airfield. There's probably a big placard here, somewhere here, saying "Do not spin it." But yeah, it'd be down here, won't it? No acrobatic manoeuvres, including spins. But that's why we're in a simulator, so we can try these things out. I think that's the airfield over there. You can just see over there. So let's have a look at the wind. Wind is coming out of the southeast then, 22 knots, oh my word. So runway 13, although on the ground it won't be anything like that. It's 10 knots, 140, so yeah, runway 13. So what we might do is circle around the airfield, or we could double back and do a left, half of a left circuit. One of the nice things about having this kind of compass is you can see the reverse side of it. So you can fly the reciprocal of 13 very easily. So we're just going to go over closer to the airfield and then we'll turn away towards the reciprocal of 1-3 and then double back in. So 1,000 feet. It handles really nicely. So let's start turning away. There's the runways. Oh, it's runway 13 dirt strip, I think it might be. Yes, dirt strip. That's fine. So we don't want to be going too slowly because we need to make the turn. Obviously you lose lift in the turn and so you get more risk of stalling with a banked wing. With this being high wing, we are going to lose sight of the airfield. So we'll turn towards 90 degrees to the runway. That's where these little markers come in useful. So you can line that up with 130 degrees, which means you are then 90 degrees to the runway or perpendicular to it. So then you can lift the wing up and see where you are in relation to it. And we've already gone past it, look, because we were literally doubling back. So we'll just turn in and intercept the glide path in. So we'll start descending. So obviously this is not the correct pattern. So come off the throttle. And we'll try the flaps now. I've not really used the flaps yet, other than takeoff. Let's have a look at it with the flaps out, see what it looks like. Oh, they're huge, aren't they? So this aeroplane has a reputation as a bush flying aeroplane, so I imagine its short field performance is very good. You do need a lot of power though, at low speed. So I guess most of that thrust from the propeller though is being directed through those flaps towards the ground, which is what's going to give it its short field performance. Oh, it turns very sharply. Let's try that from outside just to see that happen. But at least it does very positively track the nose wheel, which is not always true in Flight Simulator, so that seems very good. Okay, let's get over onto the hard standing. The classic Flight Simulator van doing a kamikaze run at us. See what I mean about the reaction to the nose wheel? That was very, very sudden. Okay, so what else can we do? Let's pull the mixture. Sounds great, and the propeller animations are great as well. So strobe lights can come off, landing light was already off, taxi light was off, beacon can come off, nav off, pitot heat off, transponder, oops, not transponder, magnetos. Yeah, the click spot for that is very small, to the point that it's very difficult to click on. That's funny. So I'm going to turn the head tracking off now, but that won't stay running because I haven't got any fuel. The click spot for the magnetos is very small. Interesting. Oh, with Master Avionics we didn't turn that off before the electric. That's on us. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed that. That's the Stationair 8 Mark II for Flight Simulator, available now in the marketplace. Made by Carenado, being sold through Asobo as one of their famous flyers. So as we said during the flight, the main upshot of that is you don't get the tablets, which you normally would in a Carenado aircraft. So a bit of a shame there, but otherwise very, very good. Very easy to fly. It's very similar to lots of other aeroplanes though, but if you like this sort of aeroplane, it's not very expensive, so go grab a copy. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon.